From our studios in Scottsdale, Arizona, this is Retirement News Online. So as you approach or enter retirement, risk takes on a whole new meaning. It's no longer just about growing your investments. It's about protecting everything that you've worked so hard to build, generating income and avoiding costly mistakes. Now, things like market volatility, inflation, healthcare costs, and longevity can all threaten your retirement security. So it's essential to work with a financial advisor who can help you navigate risk with a plan built for long-term confidence. And we have one such advisor here right now. He's Corey Scales with Optimal Wealth Network in San Bernardino, California. So, Corey, thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
Sharing your time with us today. How do you help protect someone's savings from market downturns once somebody stops working? They don't have a paycheck coming in. Every day is a Saturday, and they've got this retirement ramp, which could be 10, 20, 30 years or more.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things we want to make sure that they identify is that they have a solid foundation. A foundation that gives them guaranteed income, that gives them a stream of income that's not market-based, that's not risk. And then make sure that they have a buffer as well, so that they have something that they can pull from in a down market that doesn't minimize their portfolio.
That sounds like planning and not hoping. That's a good idea. I love that.
Absolutely.
So balancing growth and safety in a portfolio, traditionally as an advisor, it's probably the most difficult thing that you have to do. To get growth, we have to add risk, or at least have risk, and to get protection, we have to minimize risk. How do you find ways to balance that?
That's a great question. So one of the things you have to look at, and each client, obviously their scenario is unique to their situation. And so looking at their financial planning, where their goals are, where they want to go, what they're looking to do, if they're going to have any other ventures, things of that nature, then we take that, we diversify that portfolio based on what their needs are going to be. So it's need planning as well as understanding what their long-term goals are.
And going back to making sure that we have enough income. So, you know, the good news is medical science has allowed everybody to live a lot longer.
Right.
The bad news is we have to kind of pay for that extra time.
Absolutely.
And so things like healthcare costs, longer life expectancy are things that we really have to plan for. And when it comes to income, you know, that longer life can sometimes mean it's kind of difficult to make sure that we have enough money for all those extra years. So how do you really plan around that?
No, yeah. So, and you know, understanding that longevity is definitely the number one reason, the number one fear in retirement, right? Outliving our money. And so the biggest thing we have to understand is that we need to make sure that we have guardrails in position, that we make sure that as our money is going and we're living on that money, we're distributing that money, we're pulling from that money, that we have lifetime income options available to us, right? Without that lifetime income base, then that means that we don't have that buffer, if you will, or that foundation to make sure that that money stays as long as we're living. We don't outlive it, right? We want it to outlive us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And leave a legacy. In that process, we want to make sure that, you know, there's a foundation there, that base is there, so that they can bank on that. And then from that other part, you know, any kind of lifestyle that they want to have, they can look at upsiding or using other risk factors for that kind of growth.
I can tell you really love what you do.
Absolutely.
And you work with people who are just starting out, starting to save, starting to plan, and then people who are getting ready, you know, to retire. So, Corey, I can tell you really love what you do, and it's good to hear that you work with people who are just starting out, who may not have a lot to work with, and then people who are getting ready for retirement. I would imagine that you run into people who have a very similar bunch of misconceptions about investing and planning and retirement. Talk about that. What's the most common thing that you see?
Absolutely. Well, one of the most common things we see is a lack of knowledge, right? Lack of education. And then what I also understand is one-sided strategies, right? They either look at, they're fully into a market of volatility, and so they don't understand how to properly leverage what they're looking and how they're saving. If you're young and you're saving and that's your goal, then you want to look at how to use all of the vehicles available to you, right? Not just your market volatility or investment accounts, but where does indexing come in? Where does insurance play a role in those strategy, so that you can actually have all of the things working for you in your best interest? So you have three buckets. You have a short-term, mid-term, long-term bucket. If I'm a retiree or in retirement, then I have same three buckets, but a different approach to that prospect, right? So I want to make sure that now I want to look at sustainability. I want to look at longevity. I want to make sure that I still have accessibility, right? But I don't disrupt the compound interest opportunities. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of what I like to do. The number one thing that I feel is missing is the lack of education in how to do those strategies.
He's Corey Scales in San Bernardino, California. Thank you for watching Retirement News Online.